giving a minimum grade of 50, which means that grading scale is on a 50 to 100 grading scale. We have some schools where they're like, no, we're going to enforce the grading scale of 0 to 100, and we're going to give a 0 if a student doesn't turn their work in or they don't do their work in. We're going to deduct points for work not done. Some schools do, sometimes some schools don't. I believe that that puts our students on an unlevel playing field, especially those competing for high school academies, colleges, etc. Many of you probably read in the newspaper that Virginia Beach City Public School Board just voted to remove the distinctions of valedictorian and salutatorian at our high schools. This is something that I was adamantly opposed to, yet it got passed 8-3 in our schools. And it's something, this will not take effect until the rising freshmen this year it will affect. And I'm hoping that we can change that decision before they get to their senior year of high school. Honor graduates, we did implement the Latin system as well, which I like the Latin system. I like that idea. I don't necessarily like how it's been implemented. We are also, the first level of recognition is an honor graduate, and then you have the laude distinctions. On this, starting with the honor graduates and above, 55%, and again, this isn't necessarily anything new. Our honor graduates, the numbers are pretty much the same, but we're still recognizing them all. 55% of students in Virginia Beach will be recognized with honors and above. And in my opinion, when you have more students receiving honors than not, it really waters down the meaning of that word. So, a couple of weeks ago, I learned of something new that has been implemented on our website. It's called the VBCPS Fact Checker. There are different, you can click on different topics to learn the division's stance on different issues. And this is just one that I pulled up. Has division spending just kept growing? And it says, fact here, it says spending is actually on the decline. Did you guys know that in your most recent tax increase that you got, that spending was on the decline? So here are the actual numbers. This is taken from our budget statement that we received. So per pupil expenditure and budgeted, in 2017, the estimated amount was $11,283. In 2018, it was $12,534. That's over $1,200 per pupil increase. The 2017-18 budget was $860 million, and the 2018-19 budget was $882 million. That's an increase of $22 million. So the fact checker says that spending is on the decline. So I encourage you to go through these facts that have been posted on the website and review them. If you have any questions, feel free to contact a board member with your questions on that. And that's the end.
As I said at the beginning, I'm going to sort of keep track of questions. And Bill and Steph first. Mary.
So I've got about 70 questions, but I want to ask them all. I'm going to ask two quick questions. The first one, as a school board member, who do you represent?
I represent the people of Virginia Beach,
Okay.
who elected me to represent them, and all people, even if they didn't vote for me.
Got it. So I read your question on discipline. I read the response. The response would tell me that the citizens, employees, and students are, this suggests that they cannot contact school board. So who put this out? And then I don't want to put other school board members
This was the
answering this.
superintendent's response to my email.
Because if this was put out when I was on city council and in the state, if somebody told the citizens that they were not allowed to contact me, and it was an employee of mine, the city, the state, the city manager, anyone like that, I would write a disciplinary action against that individual, and I would hold everybody on the board and the General Assembly accountable for that. You are accountable to the citizens of Virginia Beach. The school board, the entire school board, is accountable to the citizens. Any citizen, anyone, even I, any citizen should be able to contact a member of the school board, and if you're not going to take action, if the school board member is not going to take action on that, then we have a major problem. So this tells me we have a major problem. I will go offline with our school board members individually. Beverly, we can talk after this. I'm telling you that if this is the case, then our school board is breaking the Constitution of Virginia and the Constitution of the United States. I'm happy to take any individual member of school board, any individual member of the staff that is putting this out on, because this is wrong. This is against our Constitution, and any elected official who's going to do this is not following their oath of office. And our oath of office is sacred, and that's why the people put us there. We're put there to represent the citizens, between the citizens in the school board, the citizens in the council, the citizens in the state, the citizens in the federal government. That's what our Constitution is based on. We're the people, of the people, by the people. When we get away from that, then whoever is driving us away from that, I'm going to have a major problem with, and so is the majority of the constituents that elect us. I've got not just myself saying this, but I've got my money that I'm going to put behind this. So I'm happy to talk to members of the school board. I don't know how you're organized. I've really never been involved in school board issues other than making sure you get more money when you ask for it. But this tells me we have a problem. And I will step in if this is truly happening the way this states as a response. I personally am going to look into this and demand, not ask for it, demand an answer and hold people accountable for those answers. One last question, then I'm going to shut up. I'm not asking any more. Who puts out or who writes the VBCDS fact checker, and then who approves it or reviews it?
I'm not exactly sure. I was not privy to these conversations regarding the fact checker. When it came online, I didn't even know it was coming. I believe it's my understanding that the superintendent approves everything that's on it. And it was a compilation of the staff, the directors of each program, high school, middle school.
That's okay. I'm going to write the school board, and I'm going to officially ask that question.
Okay.
So, school board members, Beverly, please expect a letter from me on this.
Sure.
And I'd like to know who's putting this
I'd
out.
love to explain the context of what this is about.
Please, please.
Second question is Mary, your third.
Thank you very much.
Mine is more related to comments, sort of piggyback off of what you were saying. I taught for 30 years, and one of the things that I noticed was the inconsistencies among our administration. So if you have a student who writes school policy, and this student is assigned to one administrator, that administrator may execute the punishment that is part of our policy. But then if a student does the same thing but has a different administrator, that kid might get sent back into the classroom. So I saw that year after year after year when I was in the classroom. And that's one of the things that we need to fix. When we have school board policy, every administrator has to follow that policy. They can't give somebody a slap on the wrist and send them back into the classroom. So that's just one of the many things that I experienced.
Well, and that's due to site-based management, which is becoming more and more and more common in all different areas.
But I'm talking about under one roof.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
have two students under the same roof, and student A gets ISS, student B gets sent back into the classroom.
Yep.
We've got to fix that.
Okay, I have a lot of
Speak up, Teresa.
Okay, we understand we always follow the money, that's really what this is all about. And I know that there have been, a question of discipline. Teachers being told not to refer certain students by sit back in the classrooms, maintain it, and we all know that if you have more than 4 or 5 students in the classroom, you're not going to be able to maintain all of it. I'm wondering if there's a monetary reward for the schools, whether it's in the academic accreditation department, or whether it's actual money that's awarded for not having, for the amount of referrals that you don't have or you have.
Well, I can't say that there's a monetary aspect tied to it. However, in 2014, Obama's Department of Education, Board of Education, gave a directive telling the nation, telling states that they had to essentially reduce suspension rates. And that came down, I've got the directives, if you want to contact me, I'll have them with me. Terry McAuliffe, through his Virginia Board of Education, issued a similar directive to all localities to reduce those suspensions. So this is coming from the top down. So far, I've not seen any corrective action taken on the Obama guidelines that were issued. This is not law, these are guidelines. So it is not necessarily something that you have to follow. However, if you don't, then funding could be impacted at the federal level, I would assume. But I don't have any documentation that monetarily there's any, if you don't do this, you will lose this funding. I don't know that I've seen that.
And my second question is I got my license to teach at Virginia Wesleyan, and one of the key philosophy points was that if you give a student any work, whether it's a test, whether it's a worksheet, no matter what it is you ask them to do, you give them you have to hold them accountable by scores or whatever, grades. I would like to know where they got this philosophy that you can just have kids do homework or do whatever and just say, well, do it if you want and when you want, and maybe it won't even count, whatever. I'd like to know what child psychologist or where they got.
And again, this is something that was created through standards-based grading, if you want to look up that term. And this is something that's nationwide as well. It's not just here in our school district. It essentially says that you need to grade a student essentially on their knowledge only. And in my opinion, it's just as important if a student knows all of their, scientific facts, the periodic table. They can quote the periodic table, but they can't turn their work in on time. That translates to, are they going to be able to show up for work on time? To me, that is a life skill that needs to be taught to students just as much as they need to be taught the material.
I was in reference to learning because it's definitely such a bad learning because they're not
going to do the work. I know,
Right.
exactly. It's a huge problem.
But
First, an incidental comment, and then my major one. I'm maybe older than everybody. I graduated high school in 48. But I can't imagine when I went to school in Pittsburgh, where I lived, any kind of discipline problem. I mean, you didn't have them. And if you did, man, you were in big trouble. I don't understand it. It's related to my comment. I'm concerned about the superintendent. I think all this stuff about grading, zeros, all this stuff is coming from him. And I think much of it is wrong. And the discipline is the same sort of thing. I think we have a problem with practice. I don't know what to do about it. I just want to comment. I'm the superintendent of school. But I can't imagine if Ed Rickle was still here, do we have stuff like this going on?
Okay, two things. First, the reason they take the history SOL, a high school history class needs to be a verified credit for graduation. And that's the way they verify the credit is through passing the SOL test.
But Stephen, my point was,
And
in
it's
new
not- doesn't
accreditation
count towards
guidelines, they're
I understand,
saying
it doesn't
it's
count
not-
towards accreditation, but it counts towards the individual student's graduation. And my question is, last year, in the wintertime, a lot of parents came to the school board meeting and talked about weighted grades for the governor's school for the arts. Has anything been done about that?
Staff is looking into that. We've not gotten their recommendation back yet.
Thank you.
And before Eric, I just want to insert something. There was some confusion about that 75%. That doesn't mean that the student has to score 75%. The score is, well, there were other people that didn't. The score is 400. That you have to and then advanced pass is above, you know, the scores go up from 400. So all that means is 75% of your students in that building scored 400 or above. That's the,
Correct, thank you, Marlena.
yes, and Eric, you're next.
This is $1 million question. A lot of people.
Is it 882 million?
Yeah, something like that. So, about the removal of the valedictorian salutatorian, what was the actual argument, pro, con for that? Because this has always been something that we've heard, we read in the pilot, we even asked our chamber today, and I'm asking the question, what was the actual saying that, well, this is going to be good for students because?
So the initial thing that was brought to the board was that we have so many academy programs, and if those academy programs, say, I'll take Princess Anne IB program, for example. At Princess Anne, all of those students are lumped together at graduation. You have one valedictorian, one salutatorian, which it's pretty much impossible for the non-IB students to get valedictorian, salutatorian. So that was one thing that we started looking at. And well, my response was, well, let's have a valedictorian for the IB program and a valedictorian for the non-IB students. Well, no, that's going to divide the students. We can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So then it morphed into the Latin system, which I said, I understand the Latin system, but then that morphed into, we're going to get rid of valedictorian and salutatorian. I can't really tell you why. I don't understand. I mean, we recognize superintendent of the year, we recognize teacher of the year, we recognize athlete of the year, but we can't recognize the top 2 students in every graduating class. I just don't understand that. I'm an athlete, and I said this in our school board meeting on this topic. Athletes do better when there's competition, and I don't think competition is a bad thing. And I think competition motivates students. I know it motivates my kids. And so I don't quite understand it.
CJ, and Robert, and then
Okay. Hello, my name is Steve. People always were asking me, so I thought I'd say. It's like a sign of new face. Thank you. So, on the valedictorian salutatorian thing, just real quick statement was, I've only been to one graduation on a high school level, and I was highly surprised by those 2 speeches. One was very thought out and really put out some like real good thoughts. The other one was just the worst speech I've ever heard someone speak to a group of people.
Yeah.
So I get that people might, it's tradition and stuff like that. I'm not saying yes or no on that, but they are being recognized that they like their grade point average still is what they're, and their college will take that into account. So it's not like we're ruling out grade point averages. We're just going, yeah, maybe we're just not gonna just give the microphone to someone that could put out everything wonderfully, or something that they just thought of that moment.
Well, and that's a good point. And actually, Ms. McLeod, one of my colleagues on the board, she had even suggested, even if you have valedictorian and salutatorian, that doesn't mean that they have to give the speech. You could have somebody else give the speech.
So
that
was just a side note, but my question about the certification, the new one coming up. Can we go to that slide?
The accreditation?
Yeah, the accreditation. Sorry, thank you. So when I read this, it means almost 0. Because if you're going to be level 1, you're going to be meeting or exceeding. Okay, I got that. But if you're going to be level 2, you're going to be near standards or maybe trying to come up, and then below standards, but even then there's caveats to going up. So basically you're going to get like the 1% of low ends that are going to actually be at level 3 non-accredited. But then you'll get like deals made to, so how's that, I know that you said you don't know, but okay, maybe it's just the same. I don't see how this even works. You can't just say significant